Hello and welcome to the 27th episode of A Woman Robbed, a bonus series from And the Runner-Up Is, where we talk about actresses who may have come close to earning Oscar nominations but were ultimately overlooked, omitted, or for one reason or another just didn't have the votes to make it into the final lineup, and discussing why they may have deserved to get in and why they ultimately didn't. Each episode has its own theme, presented as a double feature, and this week we're going to be covering two performances not nominated for Oscars that very basically represent fall vibes. So horror, falling leaves, Thanksgiving, cooler climate, anything with that kind of sensibility, that broad umbrella that makes them kind of satisfying to watch around this time of year. And my guest today, I think, is one of the greatest in our space. You know him, you love him, from the Awards Connection and Awards Watch. Welcome back to the show, Andrew Carden.
Kevin, to quote the legendary Madeline Ashton, these are the moments that make life worth living.
Wow. Now a warning? It's true, though. It is. Yes.
Yes. Kevin, I think this is my 16th appearance on some iteration of your podcast. I was
Wow.
counting them before. So I think
Good
this is
Lord.
number 16, I think.
Sweet 16.
Yes.
Look at you. Look at you. Well, like I said, you're one of the best, and I had to have you on for this one because it's Mia, right?
Uh, the best. One of my at least 10 favorite actresses. I
Yes.
may be her number one fan. You could argue that. I adore her. I just watched Rosemary's Baby last night, actually, for the umpteenth time, and God,
Right.
is she good in that? Uh,
Which we've famously discussed on a
Indeed.
previous episode of A Woman Robbed. That was Oops All Mia Farrow double feature with that and The Purple Rose of Cairo, which was so fun.
Oh,
But
love it.
here we are again. But let's get right into it. So I presented to my patrons here at And the Runner-Up is a list of 15 performances that give us those broadly fall vibes. And the options were Sandra Bullock in Practical Magic, Cher in Mermaids, Ana de Armas in Knives Out, Mia Farrow in Hannah and Her Sisters, Megan Fox in Jennifer's Body, Diane Keaton in Baby Boom, Sanaa Lathan in Love and Basketball, Bette Midler in Hocus Pocus, Christina Ricci in Addams Family Values, Julia Roberts in Mona Lisa Smile, Meg Ryan in You've Got Mail, Winona Ryder in Heathers, Susan Sarandon in Stepmom, Kristen Stewart in Personal Shopper, and Meryl Streep in Death Becomes Her. What a group of performances, huh?
All legends.
Right? Yes. And the top vote getters were Mia Farrow and Meryl Streep. And so Kristen Stewart actually came super close, but Mia Farrow edged her out by just 1 point. I'm
And I
guessing
think
that was you.
it was definitely me. I admittedly voted for Mia and Meg Ryan because I'm a huge You've Got Mail
Yeah,
fan.
of course.
It's one of my favorites. But Meryl in Death Becomes Her is an iconic performance, so I
Right.
can't complain. Obviously,
Yeah.
it would have been very poignant to have Diane Keaton in the discussion for Baby Boom.
Yeah.
But God, two great performances, but that's just a sea of amazing acting all around,
I think so.
including Megan Fox.
Yes. Let's put some respect on her name. Um, but Meryl is definitely the top choice among the patrons, like far and away. But happy to be also talked about Mia again. So this being the fall episode, curious, Andrew, if you had any kind of fall traditions regarding watching films and rewatching films that get you in the spirit, and maybe why you think, like culturally speaking, that we tend to maybe like more with these fall movies, watch them again and again rather than other periods of the year, you know?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm a horror nut. I go to horror conventions, so October is a prime time for me. I generally have AMC Fear Fests on in the background all the time. So I've
Mm-hmm.
watched like Halloween 4 at least three times over, or bits and pieces of Halloween 4 over the past few weeks. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
huge slasher fan, but I'm also a fan of just comfort films. And fall has so many of those. When I think fall, I think of films like Hannah and Her Sisters, which I watch generally closer to Thanksgiving time. But I also think of some of the Douglas Sirk films. I think of All That Heaven Allows, which has some amazing fall flavor. I think of a film like You've Got Mail, a wonderful romantic comedy. Yeah, I mean, I think fall, if there's a movie season that I'm fondest of, it's fall. just because the fall aesthetic is so
Mm.
irresistible. The
Yep.
leaves, and if there's some food, it's so wonderful and warm. And yeah, I mean, we're going to discuss Hannah and Her Sisters. This is an annual watch for me. I've watched it countless times over the years. And a film like Death Becomes Her, I don't necessarily associate with fall, other than it's a film that's definitely on TV quite a bit, in the rotation with other horror
Right.
pictures. But yeah, I adore fall. It's my favorite season. I love the crisp air outside, the leaves, and the movies, especially the horror movies, because I was raised on them. My parents were horror nuts. I watch them all the time now. And to be able to discuss these two films in particular, two films that mean a whole lot to me, I mean, just what a pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. For me, it wasn't really like a big tradition in my family to watch a bunch of horror movies or like fall feeling movies around this time. Definitely more of a thing around Christmas time, more so. But I only really developed a sort of tradition of watching these spookier and warmer and also chillier movies around this time as an adult. And it's, obviously logical that like we as a culture would do this more with fall and winter because we're indoors more, and there's kind of a comfort even with horror movies and revisiting them around this time, just like aesthetically speaking. Like you said, I do prefer this season, just the leaves and the chill in the air, and it's like a little darker on the whole. But I'm really happy with what the patrons chose here, because it really kind of is representing for me both sides of what a good fall movie can be, where it's like the warm nostalgia and the family aspect, and then you also have the other side being a little more dark, but not necessarily like all that scary per se, and very fun and campy in a way. So this is a really cool double feature, and I'm very excited to get into it with you.
Me too. And there's really not that many films that I associate directly with Thanksgiving.
Right.
You would think that there'd be more, but there just aren't. Anytime somebody asks me like, "What's your favorite Thanksgiving movie?" which isn't often, but it has come up, and Hannah Sisters
Yeah.
is like the only thing that even comes to mind.
Yeah,
Um,
there's Planes, Trains, Automobiles is another, I would say, but
yeah, and
not really many
Home for the
others.
Holidays, the Holly
Sure.
Hunter
Yeah.
film, which is great. Um, but yeah, beyond that, Hannah Sisters is easily tops for me and really takes advantage of the holiday. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, on that note, let's get right into it then. Going chronologically, we are starting with Mia Farrow in Hannah and Her Sisters.
You treat me like a loser. How? You never have any faith in my plans. You always undercut my enthusiasm.
Not so. No, I think I've been very supportive. I try to give you honest, constructive advice. I'm always happy to help you financially. I think I've gone out of my way to introduce you to interesting single men. There's nothing
losers.
Oh,
All
you're
losers.
too demanding.
I could always tell what you thought of me by the type of men you fixed me up with.
Crazy. That's not true.
Hey, Hannah, I know I'm mediocre.
Oh, will you stop attacking
Why?
Hannah? She's going through a really rough time right now.
Why are you so upset?
You've been picking on her ever since she came in here, and you just leave her alone for a while. I'm just suffocating.
What's the matter with you, Lee? Why are you so
Look,
sensitive all
listen,
of a sudden?
Listen, you want to write.
What's the
Write.
matter?
Write. Let's just not talk about it anymore.
Good.
Take a year, take 6 months, whatever you want. Who knows? Maybe you'll be sitting with a good play.
So, as I said already, we've covered Mia Farrow on A Woman Robbed, but we never got to on the main show because she was never nominated for an Oscar, still hasn't been. And so, to remind us all of where Mia was at this point in her career, she had just done The Purple Rose of Cairo a year before, directed by Woody Allen. And now here they are with another film a year later. This is about 6 years into their long-term relationship, which would ultimately end in 1992. But so they're right in the middle now. She also had multiple adopted children and biological children at this time. So she's really got her hands full. And a few children actually appearing in this movie, including Soon Yi, which is interesting. But this film, of course, written and directed by Woody Allen, and he devised this character of Hannah based on Mia, essentially, on her life of being someone who is stable and balances relationships with her family very well. And he was inspired by the idea of that type of character, having two sisters who are maybe a little less stable, you could say. So Hannah and Her Sisters, an ensemble dramedy set in New York, which revolves around Hannah and her sisters, Leah and Holly, played by Barbara Hershey and Diane Wiest. So Hannah is essentially a housewife and is in a somewhat happy relationship with Elliot, played by Michael Caine, and she helps tend to her family's various crises, particularly Holly, as she keeps changing careers. And things become very complicated when Elliot starts to stray from Hannah and enters an affair with her sister Lee, who is uneasy about their affair but still finds himself drawn to him. And we also get to know Mickey, played by Woody Allen, who is Hannah's ex-husband, who is going through an existential crisis, and we get flashbacks to when they were married, and the film is essentially about these complicated family dynamics as they all try to find satisfaction in their busy, modern New York lives. So let's get right into it. Like you said, I know you adore this movie. I know you adore Mia. So I would just love to know your history with Hannah and Her Sisters and with Mia's performance here.
Totally. So growing up, my parents had the Woody Allen collection on VHS, which was this collection of all of Woody's movies that were made either from United Artists or Orion, like the whole MGM collection. So this was about 20 movies, and Hannah and Her Sisters was among them. My parents were fondest of the Diane Keaton movies, so Hannah and Her Sisters wasn't really in the rotation as much at home, but my grandparents adored Hannah and Her Sisters. They talked about it all the time. We'd have a weekly Sunday dinner, and we'd inevitably talk about movies constantly. And I would say the movies that came up the most were Hannah and Her Sisters and Moonstruck. They would quote from them constantly. And my grandfather in particular said that he thought that Barbara Hershey in Hannah and Her Sisters was the most beautiful woman he's ever seen on screen.
Wow.
He thought she was just jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
And what's sad is that I didn't get to watch Hannah and Her Sisters until a bit later. And at that point, my grandfather had passed away. My grandma wasn't entirely there. And I didn't really get to talk about the film in depth in a way that I would have loved to. I heard from them over the years how much they loved this, and I was eager to watch it, but I was also just a little too young to appreciate it. And by the time I was able to appreciate it, they weren't around. And I sure do wish I could have talked about it with them because they just adored this movie. And it's a film that once I saw it, I just couldn't get enough of it. I think you could argue it may be the best Woody Allen film. It's certainly the best ensemble work in a Woody Allen film, arguably the best ensemble work in pretty much any film because everybody is so well utilized in this. Just magnificent work all around. I think this might be Michael Caine's best performance, which is saying a lot because he has an incredible filmography. Just one amazing performance after another. Even actors who don't have a ton of screen time in this really are still given a good amount to chew on. Like Carrie Fisher in this is wonderful. She gives a fantastic performance. Every moment with her is great. And what a pleasure to see her in this era with a role like this. Adore her in both this and When Harry Met Sally later. And this is a movie that is full of a lot of colorful, vibrant, dramatic characters. And Mia Farrow's Hannah might be the most understated, put together of them all. But for me, she's really the heart and soul of this movie. She's the rock of the family. She's the stability. But she also has to kind of walk on eggshells all the time because the folks around her, notably Diane Wiest's Holly, are just so sensitive and she can easily set them off. And Hannah may be the titular role of this film, but I wouldn't say she's like the bona fide lead of it. This is just ensemble work all around. You could argue everybody is a supporting actor in this. So all that's to say, and we'll obviously discuss Mia more in depth. I adore this movie. Incredible ensemble work. I often say this would be the best comedy of the 1980s if Tootsie didn't exist. I think my 5 favorite comedies of the 80s are Tootsie, Hannah and Her Sisters, Moonstruck, When Harry Met Sally, and probably Working Girl. I just adore this
Hard to
movie.
dispute that.
Yeah, I love revisiting it. The screenplay is just phenomenal. The dialogue is incredible. The structure is first rate. I think, again, you could argue it's Woody's best work, at least on a writing level. just incredible. I love this movie.
10 out of 10, no notes from Andrew.
12 out of 10. Extra credit.
12 out of 10. Wow. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is definitely one of Woody's best films pretty easily. Like, and it's largely because of this cast. I mean, I feel like I say this about a lot of films that I've talked about, but like an easy SAG Ensemble winner if they had
Oh,
that SAG Awards in
100%.
1986. Like, easy. Yeah, the way it balances all the different perspectives too and just gives pretty much everyone their due. I think it's way harder than it looks. But yeah, also on a thematic level, I think it's just a great story about relationships and family and how they kind of are assessing their lives and their wants and desires, and also but within like that framework of what's expected of them too, and or what they expect of themselves. So it's a very rich text, and Diane Wiest and Michael Caine are great, very deserving of their Oscars. Barbara Hershey is excellent, and she does look beautiful in this movie. I do agree with your grandfather there.
Yeah.
And yeah, really deserved more than she got for this. And it is interesting with Mia Farrow because she is the rock, she is the glue that holds it all together. And sort of by necessity, it kind of means that she has a little bit less to do because she is reacting to the chaos more so than going on the roller coaster herself. I think it definitely picks up more for her towards the end, but for a lot of it, it's a very reactive performance. And I think as I'm watching it, I do find myself more interested in other stories, especially with Holly, the Diane Wiest character, and her kind of search for meaning. And then with Lee, with Barbara Hershey, she's like trying to negotiate with like what she wants versus like kind of indirectly hurting her sister. And that really hits hard for me. Whereas with Hannah, I think she's not quite as compelling dramatically, but watching it through the lens of like assessing her performance for this, I definitely gained much more of an appreciation of her work in just how she plays off of her co-stars and has to juggle all these different relationships, you know, but like is also staying consistent to who Hannah is. She's not really changing for anyone. So it's not a very flashy performance, but in a way it is definitely key to the movie finding a center. So to your point, it really wouldn't work as well maybe without her.
No, 100%. And you watch this movie and, you're watching the first 20 or so minutes and the film, even though it's called Anna and Her Sisters, isn't really super focused on Hannah. She has some very good moments, but the bulk of Mia Farrow's moments, her strongest work in this, I think, fall around the second Thanksgiving in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the real drama, that's where everything kind of builds up to it. Everything that's happening with Michael Caine's character and with Diane Wiest, who's writing this play about their lives and making Hannah incredibly uncomfortable about it.
So messy.
I know. And yeah, I think that, Diane Wiest and Barbara Hershey have you could say the juicier characters, especially
Yes.
Diane Wiest, who's just this neurotic mess, and Barbara Hershey, who's just so drop dead beautiful and radiant and has such a great rapport with Michael Caine. And I think this is, again, just such a great role for Michael Caine. He's so giddy as he's pursuing Barbara Hershey. So much of the attention is given to them. And then once Woody Allen enters as Mickey, I mean,
Yeah.
I forget how much the film kind of really focuses on Mickey. You could call this movie Mickey almost, because half of it feels like it's really focused on him and his spiritual journey and dealing with his health issues and being the ultimate hypochondriac. And he has so many wonderful moments, but he takes up a lot of screen time too. So if you're not a fan of Woody Allen's shtick, this may not be entirely for you. I think the writing is so sharp, and I think some of the film's best moments are Woody Allen moments. I think him in the movie theater toward the end is one of the film's very best moments, with his narration. That's fantastic. But yeah, toward the beginning of this, it is surprising how little Mia Farrow is utilized. Again, there are some great moments. I love when she's very lightly confronting Holly toward the beginning, asking if she needs money for cocaine again.
Yes.
Kind of hinting at what's to come. And we're, of course, going to flash back to when Holly was using cocaine. So you get hints of what's to come, but so much of the focus in kind of the first quarter is on the other characters. Hannah doesn't really get the spotlight to herself until more toward the middle of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have all that much to do, but even within that, I think she establishes the character so well, even if it isn't like a huge stretch maybe from who Mia is naturally, because that's part of the writing of what he wanted to do is to model her after Mia. But the way she kind of floats through a room in that first Thanksgiving scene, just that casual coolness, and is like seemingly without problems and always available to help her sisters. You just have that like immediate elder sister presence of like she's always going to take care of them, and there's a comfortable warmth in how friendly her demeanor is, but still having a little bit of that passive aggressive cautiousness, like you said, of being like, well, are we talking about cocaine again, that kind of thing. Just but also how sweet she can be too, and calling Lee beautiful in that opening too, like all these little things that really fill in the details well to make us see why all these people kind of rely on her to stabilize.
These folks just need constant attention, especially Holly, need constant attention and validation. And Hannah just has to be so careful with what she says because she knows, based on her history, that if she says the wrong thing, it's going to send Holly spiraling. There are scenes later on where Holly does spiral, and those are the moments where Diane Weiss really gets to shine. But Mia Farrow is really great in those scenes too, just kind of, taking it in yet again, having to deal with Holly, who just can't seem to get her shit together. I think that Mia starts to really get great moments when, I think probably her first really great scene is when they flash back to when she and Mickey were trying to conceive. And they go to the doctor and they find out that he can't have children, he's infertile. And she asks him, could you have ruined yourself somehow? Too much masturbation, which is probably one of the funnier lines that she gets in this.
Excessive masturbation? Yeah.
And he's, of course, well, do you want to ruin all of my hobbies, Hannah?
Yeah.
And there's that scene with that's that really great but very awkward scene where they meet with Tony Roberts and Joanna Gleason, who play their friends. And they approach them about artificial insemination, and just how cringe-inducing that scene is, but also just so expertly and convincingly played.
Yeah.
And it's after that part where they started to drift apart.
Yes. And in that scene of that awkward presentation of being like, will you be our sperm donor? There's this kind of dry, like matter-of-fact kind of humor in how she plays it too, of being like, well, we wouldn't have intercourse, and it's like, we know it's a lot to ask, but it's just very, very funny how just kind of like casually she plays that, even though it's like this huge life decision. And I think it's also really sweet seeing her scene with her parents too, of, going to help out her mother, who's having kind of this drunken episode, you could say. And it's like she was flirting with a younger man, and which totally enraged her father, Hannah's father. And I love also her narration there, that kind of wistful tone that she has as she's talking about how her parents never really fulfilled their dreams and kind of resented the idea of raising Hannah and her sisters.
I actually wrote that down because I love that scene because it's both one of the funniest scenes and one of the most heartrending scenes, because Marino Sullivan and Lloyd Nolan in this are so funny. Because he's talking about how she was like throwing herself at the salesman in the most disgusting way, and she got drunker and drunker until she turned into Joan Collins, and then she like fights back against him and says that he's the one who laid every ingenue in stock. I just love these old actors, and there's also I love Maureen O'Sullivan in this. There's this moment later where she's talking to Diane Weiss in the kitchen, because Diane Weiss just wrote her play, and there's a part that's modeled after Maureen O'Sullivan. And she's like, I particularly love the character of the mother, a boozy old flirt, just like me.
So good.
But I wrote down Hannah's narration because it is just so beautiful. That she talks about how her mom was so beautiful at one time and he was so dashing, and they are both so full of promise and hopes that never materialized. And I think that through that narration, she just conveys so much.
Thank you for listening to this preview of A Woman Robbed, a bonus series from And the Runner-Up Is. If you liked what you heard and want to hear more, please go to patreon.com/andtherunnerup and become a patron. Only $5 a month will get you access to bonus episodes, exclusive polls, and early access to regular episodes. Thank you so much for your consideration.